Oh, I'm going first. Daniel was so nice. He set up a little script for us. So we kind of wanted to start out with the whole process from the beginning of how we were even able to do this. So it was really in September. Penny has been talking about it to me like throughout the year, but in September she had asked if I was still going, because I was supposed to go with Sustain Us, a different delegation, and I said no. It just didn't work out for me. I just decided to give that opportunity to someone else. And so she said, she's like, did you ask Tom or Candy? I was like, I messaged them, but I didn't get a response. And so she was like, okay, hold on. So she went in the back and typed up this really awesome letter. And I think it was like a week later, Tom was like, hey Penny, I googled Isabella's name and I was just checking, all the great stuff that she's doing with I Don't Know More in San Francisco and the Bay Area, and she, she's doing good, and I think she'd be a great person to be part of our Indigenous delegation with IEN. And so that happened, and I was like, okay, so that means I'm going. And then it clicked in my head. I was like, it's September and COP is in 2 months. I need to book a flight ASAP. And so that's when we were like, let's set up a GoFundMe. Let's start thinking of fundraising so that way we can buy plane tickets. And immediately the GoFundMe skyrocketed to so much great support from everyone. And on top of that, like once I bought my plane ticket, WeCan is Women's Environment for Climate Action Network. They were like, hey Penny and Isabella, we can accredit Isabella, so to get a badge, and we could also pay for her plane ticket. And so we were like, okay, this is great. And then so we told Tom. He said, oh, that's wonderful. They were able to accredit you and, pay for your plane ticket. So she doesn't have to worry about her Airbnb or for like a hotel. Like we can cover her. And so after that, I was like, so I have all this money. What am I going to do with all this money? I can't just use it for myself. And I asked the grandmothers if I could bring Daniel with me. And they said yes. And so I asked Daniel. And then I was like, hey, would you want to come to COP23 with me from this day to this day? And he was like, yes. And so we both went.
Yeah, that's kind of where my story starts. So I get a text message from Isabella like, hey, we raised enough money to bring another person. Would you like to come? And she also mentioned that her and the grandmothers wanted to uplift my potential and the recent work I put in. And that was an amazing feeling to be recognized. So thank you very much for believing in me and in a ways that I hadn't believed in myself. And that was a great feeling. But also I'm thinking like, what am I going to do there? What do I have to offer? But I trust the grandmothers. I trust Isabella. And I trust this path I'm on. So I'm like, yeah, I'll take the leap, and I'm glad I did. So the lead up to COP was pretty stressful. Preparing for a trip in a few weeks, leaving work, trying to leave that kind of solid, and then studying with Gary Hughes, who was extremely helpful, but he just dumped knowledge on us, and I was like, where do I even start? So I just tried to absorb as much as we could before studying on the plane. And I have a layover in Iceland, and I get a text message from Tom Goldtooth, who's the head of IEN and the head of our delegation, saying that Chief Ninawa from Brazil is landing the same time I am, and that his escort that was supposed to take him from the airport to the next city where we were staying got stuck in New York. So he was asking if I could meet him up and we could go together. This was really great because he's from Brazil and so is my family. And before leaving, I didn't know if he was going to come or not, but I told a couple people, like, I really hope I get a chance to meet him. I just kind of put that out there, and then, like, we intersect in this amazing way. Like, what are the chances of this happening? And that was, like, the first indication where I'm like, all right, I'm supposed to be here. I had so much doubt before, but then right then I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And it's the mailman.
It is the mailman.
And we connected. I learned that he's the chief of 13,000 people, of the Huni Kui people, in Acre, Brazil. It's the northwestern side of the Brazil, the Amazon. And learned about, some of the struggles he's going with like water sanitation because of the pollution. And it was really great to connect with him in that way and really spend a lot of time with him. And throughout the week, I learned that another major role I had was I'd be translating for him because that person who was supposed to meet him couldn't come until the last 2 days. So I was translating for him during interviews, during meetings, any conversation. It was constant. So that was really a rewarding part of my trip, but also extremely stressful. My Portuguese is not at that level at all. I've taken a month of classes my whole life, but it's just like through family and stuff like that. So that was great, and that's one of my first takeaways from this trip was why it's important that grassroots activists like us go to the COP. We get to make these lifelong connections with activists, water protectors, and warriors from around the world. Tom Goldtooth took us under his wing. We got to connect with Dallas Goldtooth, Candy Mossett, this amazing woman from Jackson, Mississippi, Monica Atkins. Powerful woman. She's a warrior. Jade Begay from New Mexico. Alberto Salamando from San Francisco. We were living with these people. Katia Vasquez from Puerto Rico. Jesus from Puerto Rico. And we're going to keep building on these connections for the rest of our lives. And it's priceless. And you couldn't do that otherwise. You can't do that over the internet, over the phone. It's just being there in that environment together was really amazing. And continuing with Chief Ninawa, I learned how our struggle here is really connected with the struggle in the Amazon, his struggle. So our cap and trade bill, which I'm going to explain really quickly, it's like this. There's a cap on emissions in California, and that translates to each company like Chevron having their cap. If they want to exceed that cap, they can trade with another company that has room in their cap. That's the trading portion. So Chevron will pay this other company to pollute more, and then they'll receive money because they're polluting less. And the overall cap is supposed to stay at that level. Instead of trading or reducing, they can also do these things called carbon offsets. And this is done through a forest protection program that they have called RED. Reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation. So Chevron could pay money to pollute beyond their cap and beyond California's cap by protecting these forests, right? So the idea is we protected this forest, it's going to continue capturing carbon, so that's offsetting the pollution that we're making here. It's basically just an accounting trick, so it looks on paper like California reducing emissions, but in reality, they're polluting more, and these trees that should be there and that would probably be there anyways are protected. And how does that connect with Chief Ninawa and the Amazon is California's been spending money pushing his state of Acre to adopt these RED programs. So he's been fighting against that. He's been trying to educate his people, other leaders, building alliances between tribal nations to fight this. Because historically, when these programs have been adopted, indigenous people lose access to their land. They can't hunt there, they can't fish there, they can't cut down the trees to build their homes like they have for thousands of years. So they really lose their sovereignty through a system that they're not really a part of, right? They've been protecting this forest for thousands of years, and now Chevron wants to use their trees to pollute more, and now they lose their sovereignty. So that's how we're really connected. So the fight we have here impacts him and his people there, and his fight against red there impacts the pollution that's going to happen here or not, based on if they adopt these programs or not. So we're truly connected in a way, and our fight is really connected with them. So, you know, I learned a lot about that through him, and then we talked a lot on the train, and then we get to the Airbnb a couple hours